Ladder Island has recently achieved fame as the launching ground for Britain's space probes and satellites. Apart from the few sheep, the new bishop's flock will comprise the scientists, technicians and astronauts of the scientific centre.
Heavens above, I had the job of trying to putting some sea at the bottom of these cliffs, which wasn't a very easy thing doing a moving matte shot. It was a bit of a problem, that was.
We solved that on a later job, didn't we? Because it'd be very nice to get some of the tribute to a lot of the work that Bob Cuff did, because he was a very quiet man, and he never blew his own trumpets, because they were always a series of tests, and we go through the tests and use his artistic eye to pick the best results. And then I would usually test around those results. It might be that a 10 red on the camera was bringing the painting in better for him to match it paint-wise. So we would then, he'd say, well, try a 5 red and try a 15 red tomorrow, and we would work like that. I think a lot of the studio was quite envious of us, because we were a little band of brothers almost, you know. We had 2 Mitchells, 2 ordinary NC Mitchells, and we had 2 very, very nice high-speed Mitchells. So it meant that we could go out and shoot high speed, and we got quite proficient at shooting very high-speed stuff, you know. So, and of course, you know, to have those cameras meant that often we got roped in, and Doug got roped in to supervise and direct almost second unit stuff.
Yes, did end up that way.
Which was very nice. And again, we all mucked in. I don't know what name they call it, whether it's E or F. No, I don't think it's E or F stage, but it was known as the special effects stage at Shepperton. But it was also had a name called the glass mat, because on the side of the stage they built, which was the north side, they built a proper north light windows up high, so that the artists would have the north light. And in that room, which was a proper matte room, they had almost like you have in the Courthouse Institute, where they can raise the paintings up to the right level. What is such a shame is that we never took any pictures, because all round the walls were all the previous oil matte paintings that had been done, and on the little stage that we had at the side there was the original hanging glass painting, which was for Henry V, wasn't it? The original one that was done by Laurence Olivier, and this was a huge glass, because the action was actually shot through the glass, and the glass had the painting, so it was all shot.
Their method of painting was very precise in those days. I mean, I'm afraid I always did the least possible, whereas they seemed to do over the top. And Bob was always...
painted that way.
He'd painted that way.
Bob had to paint every brushstroke. Dougie would just block the thing in for colour, bring it to me and say, quickly do a test. I know it doesn't look any good, but do a test. And we were away, because we then had the basic colours, and we knew what filters we were using, and we knew what it was going to be like. Bob, he had to dot every I and every T. Lovely, lovely painting.
They ended up being very good paintings.
Oh, they're brilliant paintings, but they were dragged from the soul with Bob, I think.
Yeah. Well, it was the same with they were all the same. Yeah. I think it was the way that they'd been brought up, really, with Wally.
We'd found that you know, Shepperton had gone through a period of development and become very corporate and expensive for renting, because to rent a place in the studios was sort of one of those things whereby you couldn't sort of think that you were going to work 12 months of the year, but they wanted 12 months of the year rent, you know, and so we've set up at Walton-on-Thames, and I had a big old barn in the grounds of my house, and we kitted this barn out, and in the flats that my mother owned next door, and I lived in one of them, there was a ground floor flat which we actually kitted the rooms up so that the boys could paint. So Doug and Bob both had their painting rooms in this particular house. Bob with his Radio 3 in one room, and Doug with his television and whatever was ever on. And then we used to hoik the pictures round through the garden and into the barn to shoot them. So it was very much a homespun sort of existence. But of course it saved us having to, because we could never have afforded to do the mats and pay a huge amount of rent in the studios. And there wasn't any body in the film industry that was coming forward to assist us or give us a grant. And we did
Princess Bride to start with. Bob did most of the painting of that because he'd already started before I even came here, but I did do some things on that.
I went to Ireland to supervise a lot of the stuff, and we were up on the top of the cliffs of Moray. Well, it was almost an impossibility to shoot over the top of the cliff and get a shot of the giant and the hero climbing up the cliffs of Moray. So Bob ended up painting a vertical shot, which is a very difficult thing to do for any painter. And Dougie came up with the most brilliant animated pattern using certain patterned glasses for the sea at the bottom of the cliff, and they liked it so much that instead of using sort of 5 or 6 feet, they went to see it.
Back to it.
Yeah, they kept on cutting back to it.
Baron Munchausen now, which we did with Terry Gilliam. Very interesting, really. A lot of impossible shots, almost, weren't they?
The flag's still flying. I told you there was nothing to worry about.
Terry, an absolute, joy to work with in one respect. As an artist, he could explain to both Bob and Doug on a level which was artist talking to artist. And this, I think, Bob and Doug both appreciated, But the matte paintings were down with us. And
so how many painters did you get through then?
1, 2, 3. I can remember 4 or 5.
Well, I personally did 4.
Yeah.
I think probably more than that.
Yeah, so there must...
I did the opening shot and the closing shot.
That's right.
And I did one with the balloon.
Yes.
I did one with one of those towers.
Yes, in the foreground. The Turkish camp, or whatever they called it. I think there was probably about 8 or 10,
yes,
wasn't there?
yeah.
And then there was the Baron rides out at the end. That beautiful end shot where the Baron rides out.
I've got this other shot from Eric The Viking here. I don't know whether you're interested in that as
Yeah,
well.
absolutely.
I only got this out this morning, so hello, going to disturb my wife, I'm afraid. If I pull this out here, this was the original neg shot. The original action is in this little black area here, with so the figure was only about 3 inches high on there. So I had to paint in with the softness there to try and blend it in with the original shot. And we had lights in the windows, twinkling stars, and again snow falling down over the top. I had a small period in our career. We used to put my hidden signature on paintings to see if anybody could find them, and on this particular one I did put Doug, and I incorporated it in this little bit of decoration along there.
And where is the D?
D-O-U-G. But you're not supposed to see that, it was just for my own amusement, really.
It's solid. It's real. Now do you believe us?
It all started for when I was working on Labyrinth.
There's nothing there.
For some reason or other, Jim Henson wanted me to put, what's his name, David Bowie's just face hidden in various paintings, which I did, and I don't suppose anybody's ever seen them, but they are there. And he asked for it, and I suddenly thought, well, it's always a bit of fun to have something like that. So I've got quite a lot of my names written down in various paintings.
Thanks, Luke.
That's it.
Thank you.